The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Hello and welcome to Health for a Lifetime. I'm your host, Don McIntosh. And today we're joined in the studio with Dr. Hans Diehl. Welcome, Dr. Diehl.
Glad to be here, Don.
We're going to be talking today about obesity. It is, no pun intended, a rather weighty issue, and it's a large problem in America. It's increasing, especially over the last 10 years. And you run what are called coronary health improvement projects. Coronary, of course, has to do with the crowning arteries of the heart, but the heart is connected in terms of the vessels to everything else, and obesity directly affects the heart, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So tell us, what's the magnitude here of this problem, and what kind of things does it cause?
Yeah. You know, Don, obesity is one of the most sensitive subjects we could talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much misinformation out there.
Mm-hmm.
The issues are so complex. There are psychological aspects, there are sociological aspects, there are marketing aspects, there are dietary aspects, there are genetic aspects, and how can we cover this subject today? Let me perhaps just make a couple of comments. One is the problem has become much larger in the last 10, 20 years, like you said. Just to give you some idea, here you see a graphic that shows what happened to the average American standard seat. The American Seating Company in 1900 used to build seats, the average chair size of 6.5 inches.
16.5?
6.5 inches. Then it stayed pretty much around 17 inches in the 1930s. The 1970s, it was still under 18 inches. And then suddenly in the last 20 years, it jumped to 23 plus inches just to accommodate the American enlarging derriere.
So that's almost 2 feet.
Yeah, we had to add 6 inches, especially in the last 20, 30 years, to accommodate the American enlarging seat.
You know, on the plane over here, the airline I'm flying on, they said that they have an extra charge for people of size. So they're charging more because the fuel's going up. And just the other day it said that the cost of fuel for some of these airlines, because they're carrying such heavy passengers, they're charging for 1, 2, 3 seats sometimes, and the fuel costs are going up by the billions.
It's a classic example of the consequences of being overweight, right? We are supersizing everything today, from shirts to trousers to gurneys to coffins. People no longer fit. And the question is, why is this? It cannot be a genetic problem because it takes about 300 to 400 years to change the genetics in a whole society. So it must be an environmental problem. What could be the problems? But you know, before we do anything else, I think it's very, very important that we have great compassion towards those people who are suffering and are afflicted by this kind of a problem. And I thought the best way to set the tone for our meeting today would be by doing a roll-in. Would that sound all right to you?
Yeah, this is an interview you were doing with someone at one of your CHIP programs.
That's correct.
Well, let's take a look at it.
Now, let's perhaps dig a little bit deeper. Why are there some other psychological reasons that we can perhaps think of why people tend to find comfort and solace in food?
They feel like they're not worth anything.
Oh, I see.
People make fun of them.
Oh.
They have no friends.
Really?
They just don't care. so they eat.
I see. Looking at you, is that sort of a personal experience? Do you want to share that with us to help us to understand that maybe a little bit more?
I was always heavy. I was always the biggest kid in class. I think I weighed 150 pounds when I was in 6th grade. Kids always picked on me, made fun of me. Never had friends. Hated school, hated kids, and their parents letting them pick on me, making fun. If any of these people here have grandkids or kids that pick on kids, they ought to straighten them out and straighten them out fast. It's not fun.
It really hurts, doesn't it?
It hurts.
Kids are impressionable. And then somehow it doesn't help with the weight problem, does it?
No.
What happened?
I just wanted to get out of school. I didn't try. I just wanted to get out.
It was too
There was
painful.
There was nothing there for me. I just hated it.
What happened after you got out of school? Did that solve the problem?
No, I was still heavy. And I wish to God that Chip had been there in 80, because in 82, I had my stomach stapled.
Oh, I see.
But if Chip would have been there, I know I could have done Chip and not gone through that.
Did that solve the problem, the stomach stapling?
I lost the weight, but I can't eat right.
So you're kind of miserable?
Most of the time, yeah. I puree my food so I can eat it. But I was 336 pounds, and now I'm down to 100 and I think it was 76 today. But if Chip would have been there, I would have done Chip instead of that.
That's wonderful, isn't it? But you can see that when it comes to obesity and overweight, sometimes the reasons can be very diverse, and sometimes the roots go very, very deep, isn't it? We internalize these things. The most important thing, the most important concept to keep in mind is that when it comes to obesity, to weight, we need to extend loving concern and understanding to people. But how easy it is for some of us that are slender to poke our skinny fingers at other people, and we have this judgmental attitude that is being picked up as if it was a radar screen by the other person. Isn't that right? Some people think that overweight people have no willpower, and other people say it has nothing to do with that. We have all kinds of cliches in our society, but I think the most important concept to get across tonight is that we need to be loving people. People are worthwhile regardless of how many layers of fat are covering them. This lady at 330 pounds is just as valuable as when she now is 176. And that's a great accomplishment. We're very proud of you.
Man, that was quite an emotional exchange, and I could see the others in the audience getting involved as they listened to the pain that lady went through. It's already bad enough to be overweight or struggle with that, but then to have people tease you and point that out, and you know, that was how you were able to handle that in that setting. I could tell was bringing healing to the lady, psychologically speaking, but also the others could empathize with the lady, and you know, it just underlines what you had said at the beginning, that this is a sensitive subject. We can't assume that people, you know, people have probably been teased about their weight. Americans now as a nation are being teased about their weight by other people around the world. But we have to go beyond teasing to truths that can help us transform. And I think that's what CHIP is about, the CHIP program that you run there, and many people are running around the nation. But what can we talk about here today that can help us get a handle on how to reverse this?
You know, when I talk to obese audiences, when I talk to women and men that are struggling with overweight, my first comment usually is, I want to assure you that you are not responsible for your overweight. And they all look at me. There's a trap. I know he's setting us up. And I said, no, not really. Because at least in part, you are not responsible, because we live in a society that is making us schizophrenic. On one hand, we see the beautiful, slender people on the front covers of magazines. You open it up, and on the inside, you see recipes for romantic moments and coronaries and getting fat. I mean, we're basically surrounding people everywhere with fatty foods. I mean, you go to hospitals, fatty food. You go to restaurants, fatty food. You go to a home, it's fatty food. I mean, I'm surprised that we're not more obese than we are already. So I think that the culture has to assume some responsibility, and that we're very, very seductive to people and baiting them. It's the way we do things with fattening foods. And so what we want to do today, perhaps, take a slim view of a few ideas here that might be helpful to you. And the basic idea here is begin to eat more food of the right kind if you want to lose weight.
Okay, more food of the right kind. Instead of saying eat less food, the way you're saying that is kind of intriguing. Eat more food of the right kind.
Well, we have always said to people, if you want to lose weight, push away from the table. That's the most important exercise, right? Push away from the table. People love food. It begins to show after a while. What we're saying is just the opposite. If you want to lose weight, if you want to weigh less, eat more. Are you interested?
I'm very interested. Eat more of the right foods.
Eat more of the right foods. And so to begin our discussion, I think we have to first recognize, as you see here, that there's an energy balance. And that says if you have more calories coming in than going out, these extra calories will be deposited usually in the central bank right here, right? Right?
Right in the
Isn't
middle.
the central bank? And you know, as more and more calories come in and fewer go out, the central bank becomes sort of saturated, overflows, and you have branch offices being set up all over their body, and then you become very, very self-conscious. And you know, you feel like everybody's staring at you, and you feel, I got to do something about it. And the first thing you do is you follow the siren call of the merchants of misery. In 7 days, you lose 7 pounds. In 3 weeks, you're going to be ready for the high school reunion again. And we fall for these lines that
Gimmicks.
promise quick results. It's a quick fix trap. And this is a long-term problem. So we have to be looking for long-term solutions. And my recommendation is, if you want to lose weight, let all diets die.
So don't look for a magic pill or a diet, but look for a lifestyle.
Pills, potions, surgeries, diets, all these kind of things are second, if not tertiary, or should not even be used.
We're talking with Dr. Hans Diehl. We're talking about obesity. It is a problem that's afflicting millions of Americans and also the world. When we come back, we're going to be looking at solutions, and I think you'll enjoy these.
Are you confused about the endless stream of new and often contradictory health information? With companies trying to sell new drugs and special interest groups paying for studies that spin the facts, where can you find a common sense approach to health? One way is to ask for your free copy of Dr. Arnott's 24 Realistic Ways to Improve Your Health. Dr. Timothy Arnott and the Lifestyle Center of America produced this helpful booklet of 24 short, practical health tips based on scientific research and the Bible that will help you live longer, happier, and healthier. For example, did you know that women who drink more water lower the risk of a heart attack? Or that 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night can minimize your risk of ever developing diabetes? Find out how to lower your blood pressure and much more. If you're looking for help, not hype, then this booklet's for you. Just log on to 3abn.org and click on free offers or call us during regular business hours. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Hans Diehl. We're talking about obesity. And we, in the first half, recognize the magnitude of the problem and also the fact that it is emotionally laden. Some of the things we talk about today, you may want to have more information about. And you can get this program, of course, by calling 3ABN. But you can go to Dr. Diehl's website, CHIP Health, C-H-I-P Health, all spelled out, chiphealth.com. And there's all kinds of resources there. And thank you for making that web page. I've visited a number of times. It has a lot of links. It has a lot of scientific evidence. And in fact, the CHIP program, I'm delighted to see that it has so much scientific validation, some 5, 6 published papers and other research underway. So the reason for that is because it's working, and now other researchers are getting on the bandwagon and saying, well, let's look at this. And that leads me into my question here. We saw the magnitude and also the emotion that is connected with this, this problem, but you started out by sharing the number one simple solution, which is to eat more of the right foods. And this is different than we normally hear. You usually say push away from the table. Give us some more insight. You've kind of tickled our taste buds, so to speak.
Well, I think there are 6 guidelines I'd like to share with you today. The first one is, and you see it here, reduce empty calories. We're particularly looking at calories that have no nutritional value, such as sugar, and then you have fats, and you have alcohol. These are the 3.
So soda pop?
Soda pop. I mean, when you think about this, the average family of 4 consumes 56 cans of soda pops in America per week.
56 a week.
I mean, that's a lot of sugar. As a matter of fact,
it's like 10 six-packs almost.
Yeah, but the number one, cause of sugar consumption, the number one contributor to sugar consumption is actually soft drinks. So we need to really do something about this. Less of this and more water.
When you say less, do you mean none of it?
Well, I mean, cutting back on soft drinks is going to be very, very important. So number one, reduce empty calories in terms of sugar. It's not just the sugar. There's some other things that I want to show you. If we can take a look at that. We want to show you how the sugar consumption has gone up over the last 100 years or so. We used to take in about 20 teaspoons of sugar. Now we're consuming 40 teaspoons of sugar per person per day.
And that's largely related to the soft drinks.
Largely soft drinks, but there's some other things too, as I show you right now. Take a look at the donut there. See, that's what you want to do from now on. You always want to zero in on the donut hole.
On the donut hole.
If you eat that, and then people tell me, no, 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 no. They're selling now those donut holes as well, so you have to be careful there too. But then you have also cakes, as you see on the next
so
one.
that means 6, what is that, 6 what?
6 teaspoons of sugar.
6 teaspoons. And then the cake has 15, it shows here.
Yeah, and then the next one, look at that.
The banana split.
Yeah, you have 25 teaspoons. It gives you some joy, but it doesn't last, does it? The kicker comes the next day. You step on the scale, you try to put your pants on, you try to put your blouse on, all of a sudden you realize, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And so that brings me then to the second part of the first guideline, and that is to eat less fats and oils, as you see here. And where do we find all of the oil? Well, it's usually in refined foods. I mean, think about this. You could have 1 tube of Pringles, or you could eat 9 potatoes.
Okay. And the Pringles have all kinds of fats and oils added to the potato.
It's the same number of calories. You have 1 tube of Pringles, you have 1,000 calories, and are you going to be filled up after 1 tube of Pringles? Probably not.
Probably not. So you got to dip it in sour cream or something people usually do to fill themselves up.
But you know, you could have had
More
nine medium-sized potatoes. Could you have eaten those in one session? It's impossible. So eat more food as it comes in nature, and you're much, much safer.
So that's back to your concept. When you say eat more, you mean more foods as grown, and so you're so full that you can't eat the other. That's
correct. That's
okay.
correct.
So you get so full you can't have any more.
Correct. Now you come to the next graphic,
okay.
And here you see what happens to us when it comes to.
There's the potatoes we have.
That's right. Those 9 potatoes instead of 1 tube of Pringles, right? Okay. Or the crinkly bag.
Right.
Now the next slide shows you the empty calories. Take a look at this. 21% of our calories comes from sugar. Another 20% comes from fats and oils, and then you have alcohol, another 10%. So half of all the calories that we eat, Don, half of all the calories in our society has no nutritional value, so that we are overfed and undernourished.
Okay.
That's what we have to do. We have to do something about empty calories, fewer of these refined, engineered, seductive foods. Crinkly bags, for instance.
Okay, so cut out the soda pop or minimize it greatly.
Minimize it.
And the way to do that is to replace it with the strongest drink known to man, the water, right?
Ales.
That can sink battleships. And if you put that in your body, you don't have room for the other. And then also, foods is grown rather than processed foods.
Yeah. Fewer crinkly bag foods, right?
Okay.
Fewer the candy bars, the snacks. As a matter of fact, the bigger the snacks, the larger the slacks. It happens every time because these are concentrated calories. They're loaded with fat and sugar and no nutritional value.
Okay, what's our next?
Well, let's take a look at the next graphic.
All right.
To give us some clue what we need to talk about. Well, so we want to reduce empty calories, number one, right?
Okay.
Number two, we want to also be careful with animal products. Why animal products?
Well, animal products are kind of the animal processing things. I mean, the others are commercialized processed foods, but the animal processes things as well. I mean, if we eat meat, that's definitely a processed food.
Well, yeah, it's the animal that's done that, right?
Right.
Well, you know, we oftentimes don't realize it that when you have that sirloin steak, it's actually 70% fat. Okay, we always think about protein food, but it's really a high-fat food.
So your hamburger, your ham, your corned beef, all those kind of things are processed food.
Yeah, they're processed foods in that sense, and they're fairly high in fat, and it's usually animal fat, which is not in our best interest anyway, plus you have the cholesterol to worry about. Then, but you also come to processed sausages.
Sausages.
You know, that hot dog.
Okay.
That hot dog is about 80% fat.
80% fat in a hot dog.
Well, that's what makes it so juicy and so good.
What about French fries?
Well, there again, you see, you're much, much better off eating more of the real potatoes instead of the French fries because you basically have a 60% fat product.
I guess that's not an animal product, though. We're talking about animal products.
Yeah, that's right.
What about cottage cheese?
Well, you know, use the low-fat cottage cheese. If, for instance, you have the cheeses.
Okay.
The cheese has no fiber. It is a small volume, but fairly large calorie load. Because cheese is about 60-70% fat. Again, if you want to lose weight, you have to be a little bit careful there.
So avoid these animal products.
Yeah, because most of them are fairly high in fat, in calories, right?
So if it has a mother or a face, probably you don't want to eat it.
That's probably true. That's right. So now we have these three principles. Less refined foods.
Okay.
Number two, reduce animal products. And then eat more foods as grown.
More foods as grown. Like?
Well, I want to give you some example here. You'll be absolutely amazed. You know these little fig Newton squares?
Mm-hmm. Love them.
Yeah. I mean, one little one, about 60 calories.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
that's not good.
no, that's okay. I mean,
right.
that's a small caloric package. It's not too bad. It's a nice little treat once in a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's a processed food, isn't it?
Got to watch out for it.
It's a processed food. Now, just to give you some example, that's 60 calories. If you wanted to eat a cantaloupe, you would have to eat a whole cantaloupe to get 60 calories. A whole cantaloupe, same as one little square of a fig Newton.
I get the point. So you can eat much higher volume for less calories, and I see that you're, you know, making sure I know that. And I'm going to take it to heart.
But you see, because most food as grown, like fruits and vegetables and grains, I'm talking about unrefined grains. I'm not talking about Fruit Loops or, you know, some of these commercial prepared cereals. When you eat unrefined grain cereal products, or when you look at some of the legumes, the beans, they are very, very low in calories.
So you can eat a lot of them, it fills you up, and then you don't have the temptations.
That's exactly right. So that's what we would like people to do. Eat more grains, eat more vegetables, eat more fruits, and eat more legumes.
All right, what's our next tip?
Well, I want to give you another tip here. I was at a medical convention not too long ago, and, you know, there's a social hour, and people just move around and they buy themselves a little bit of a...
Alcohol.
Can you imagine a small jigger plus a half a cup of nuts? People think nothing of it. But right there, you have the same number of calories. It's about 750 calories that you could have had in 5 pounds of fresh fruits, and 2 rolls to boot.
Whoa.
I mean, I'm not trying to say everybody has to eat 5 pounds of fruits, but the point is you have a small concentrated calorie source like alcohol and some nuts. And when you compare it to real food as it comes in nature, all of a sudden you can eat large volumes and you can fill yourself up.
And you wouldn't recommend having any of that anyway.
No, it's true.
Maybe a few of the nuts, but not
No.
that. Okay, so again, foods as grown is the key. Eat more of those, you get full,
Correct.
and then you don't have these temptations.
And then be a little careful with the snacks, you know. Snack foods are usually not carrots or celery sticks, okay? So we have to be very, very careful with those snacks.
Okay.
Because snacks are calorie dense. The last point that I want to make here is that we probably should increase our daily walking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps tie into professional, emotional, social, and spiritual resources.
Okay, so number 4 was increased activity, walking,
Yeah.
those types of things.
Half an hour a day.
At least. And then tying into these resources.
You know, sometimes you need to have more than just doing the right thing on your own. Sometimes you need to have a counselor. You talk to a pastor. You need to talk to a psychologist. Sometimes it's good to have some support group. Or, like in the CHIP program, we have a group that is working with you.
Okay. And you mentioned that last thing as spiritual, but really that probably should be the first thing, don't you think?
Well, if people are comfortable with that, not everybody is comfortable digging into the spiritual resources. It's the most powerful, it's the most life-changing and empowering relationship we can find. And I like to really introduce that to people to pursue that.
And in the CHIP program, of course, you know, you start with science, which is God's second book, documenting that, all these scientific things. That is really spiritual when you think about it, because it really is God's principles. They're packaged in scientific research. But when people come to have that personal relationship with others in that CHIP environment, they ultimately are being introduced to spiritual concepts.
You know, Don, for those people who are comfortable in folding their hands again, there's nothing more powerful than bringing the ultimate power in the universe to come to bear on a problem that is very large and very difficult to combat on your own.
Dr. Deal, thank you so much for being with us today, sharing these principles, which are powerful principles. And thank you for being with us today. If you have more questions and you'd like to understand more of Dr. Deal's coronary health improvement program, the CHIP program, go to chiphealth.com. We're glad you joined us today, and we hope that as a result of putting these principles into practice, you'll have health that lasts for a lifetime.